So welcome to the Hartford Decides Action Team Forum, and welcome to the Hartford Public Library. I'm Richard Frieder. I am the Community Engagement Director here at the library. I'm also a member of the Hartford Decides Steering Committee. How many of you attended? Well, most of you know that we had 3 community meetings over the past couple of weeks. One of them was here, one of them was at Pope Park, one of them was up at Parker Memorial. How many of you attended one of those meetings? Okay, most of you, that's great. Now, they were all the same, so attending one was enough, but some of you just couldn't get enough. And some of you attended 2. Is there anybody here who attended 2? Wow, several people, wow. And there were even a couple of people who attended all 3. Is there anybody here tonight who attended all 3? Today, rather. Okay. Well, big round of applause especially for the people who couldn't get enough and attended more than one. But we're thrilled that everybody is here. We're really excited about this Action Team Forum because this is where we really start to get into the business of Hartford Decides. Let me try to follow the slides here. You are here at the Action Team Forum, okay? And just as a reminder, I think we do have a few people with us who were not at any of the previous meetings. So Hartford Decides is a participatory budgeting process. It gives Hartford residents real power over real money. And I think, as most of you know, the City Council and the Mayor set aside $1.25 million in capital money for this process. And we, and lots of other people out there, will decide how that money is going to be spent. So it's a great chance for everybody to have their voice heard. And we are Hartford Decides. This doesn't work with just a small group of people. There have to be lots of people involved. So it's a 4-step process. The full Hartford Decides program is a 4-step process. Those 3 community meetings were the first step, the brainstorm ideas that you see on the left there. And of course, you and others brainstormed lots of great ideas. And now the step 2 is to take those great ideas and to start to turn them into project proposals. So this is the beginning of the transformation of ideas into proposals. And then later on, actually in March, the community will vote on the proposals, and then the proposals that get the greatest number of votes will be funded. So that is the basic process. But today we're focusing on beginning to transform ideas into proposals. So that's really exciting, and we're thrilled that you're going to be part of it. Quick run through of the agenda for today. After I finish welcoming you and giving a little bit of basic information, you'll see various folks come up here and talk about goals and objectives of Hartford Decides, the process and the timeline. Then we have an action team guide that will be reviewed, a quick discussion again about capital improvement money and what that means. We will look at criteria and the criteria matrix that are going to help the action teams look at all those project ideas and essentially score them. But we'll talk much more about that later. And then you will have today the first meeting of the action teams, and we'll get much more into that in a little while. So we're going to show you once again, but for some of you it'll be new, the 4-minute video that explains participatory budgeting. I think I've seen this 43 times. But fortunately, it's a terrific video, so I don't mind. And I hope if this is your second or third time or more seeing it, you won't mind either. Here it is.
Right, if you live in this community and you pay taxes, come out and vote, decide how your tax dollars get spent.
Participatory budgeting gives people real power over real money to make the decisions that affect their lives. It's a democratic process in which ordinary community members directly decide how to spend part of the public budget.
On
this is different because you're actually voting for where the money is going to be spent instead of allowing them to decide where to spend the money.
Who knows better about their community than the people that live in their community?
Do not be afraid of the big words, participatory budgeting. It sounds boring, but it's the opposite of that.
So how does it work? First, people brainstorm ideas. They come together in meetings and assemblies and start to think of what kinds of projects they would like to see in their neighborhood.
We had to think big. We have $1 million that we could use, so we can fund parks, health issues, streets.
Volunteers work with experts to turn people's initial ideas into full project proposals.
We started with maybe about 40 projects, and so we had a series of budget delegate meetings, and we narrowed down the list into about 4 or 5 projects.
We met with the Parks Department and we talked about what we wanted to see change in some of the parks and how we were going to work with them.
What are the real needs of the community if you only have a certain amount of money? What is it that you can do that's going to benefit as many people as possible?
I'm dreaming of new benches, modern benches. Seniors have nowhere to go.
Displays at bus shelters throughout the district, and it will tell people when the next bus is due to arrive.
We're asking for a projector and 30 Mac laptops. State-of-the-art teen fitness center.
To put solar panels on a firehouse.
After volunteers share the top projects, the community gets ready to vote.
It's a way of validating every voice in our community and saying, you know what, whatever your position is, you live in our community, you have a right to decide. And that me as a representative and government should respond and should listen to that voice. Anybody could vote in this process, immigrants, whether you're documented or not, young people that normally don't get to vote.
Most people, they don't even know that 16-year-olds can come out here and vote today. Some of them are really surprised. They said, really? I said, yes. They have a voice.
The projects with the most votes get funded.
The Red Hook Library Community Garden, right here.
The projects are then implemented over the next few years. And the following year, the process starts again. People brainstorm new ideas, turn them into new projects, vote on them, and fund more improvements for their community. PB becomes part of the budget process. It becomes a new way of governing.
I think this is like the greatest wave of democracy coming into the United States. It started in Porto Alegre, Brazil in 1989.
From there, it spread all over Latin America to over 1,500 cities around the world. In Toronto, public housing tenants have decided how to spend millions of dollars on improvements to their buildings. City council members in Chicago, New York, and other cities have engaged thousands of residents in allocating discretionary funds. Entire cities have launched PB, such as in Vallejo, California, for funds from a sales tax, and in Boston for youth funds. Even schools and universities have used PB.
This was a great opportunity for you to be a part of government and better the city you live in. Who wouldn't want to take advantage of that?
You're creating a more educated platform of voters overall. So I think this can only be good for the big project of democracy.
Okay, we're going to skip the credits there. But especially for those who have been to one of the previous meetings, have seen this video before, maybe you can, maybe you're beginning to see the pieces start to come together. The phase 1 was project ideas generation, identification, and now we're shifting into developing those ideas into projects. So some of the things that the people in New York were doing in the video, we're doing more and more of them, and we'll continue as we move through the process. So real quickly, I need to wrap up because we have a lot to do. We have a really packed agenda. But I did want to point out to you, everybody should have received a packet. It may not be this color, but it's some color, a folder. And let's take a quick look at what's in there. Some of the contents are listed up here on the screen, maybe not all of them. But you have a hot pink Hartford Decides ground rules sheet. And this may come into play, especially later this morning when we get into our action teams. You have 2 copies in 2 different colors of a compact between Hartford Decides Steering Committee and staff and action team members. We'll talk more about this later, But we'll be asking you to sign this and give us back one of them and keep the other one for yourself. You have a sort of a salmon-colored sheet that says Project Evaluation Matrix Sample. We'll get into this more later, but this is going to be very useful for the action teams in looking at all the different project ideas and sorting them out. You also have an action team guide, and there'll be another member of the steering committee up here in a few minutes to talk more specifically about that. You have, let's see, you've got a little thing that looks like, I was going to say it looks like a bookmark, and in fact it is a bookmark. But there's actually, later on we'll be asking you to fill out some information that's on the back of the bookmark. You have a little half sheet that is the feedback form, and again, as in the previous meetings, we ask you please to fill this out before you leave today. It's extremely valuable to us to get your feedback on how this meeting went. You also have in blue the resolution, the City Council resolution that authorized this process and allocated money towards it. We thought you might find that interesting. And finally, you have the Participatory Budgeting Handbook. And we won't talk about it right now, but this will come in useful. Okay, what else have we got here? Before I do this, I probably should have done this first, a couple of housekeeping things. First of all, we do have translation available today in Spanish. We're fortunate to have George with us yet again. So anybody who needs George's assistance, we're going to ask them to come and talk to George, is that right?
Si alguien necesita asistencia en español, por favor, pase aquí para recibir equipo. Gracias.
Great. Thank you, George. Also, do we have childcare?
Yes, but we have no children.
We have.
So if there are children, they should come see me or Jackie, and we'll get things arranged.
Okay, great. And if you need a bus pass, Jackie is the person to see about that, okay? So if you need bus passes, please see Jackie. So that's the housekeeping stuff. So real quickly, I think you know this already, Hartford Decides was initiated by 5 organizations, 5 entities. They're up here. I won't spend any more time on that. But really, more importantly, we have a steering committee of 29 members, including 14 representatives from each of the NRZs, 10 members at large, and 1 member from each of the partner organizations. And the steering committee is really the group that is driving the process. Today, steering committee members have red name tags. So anybody with a red name tag is a steering committee member. Steering committee members, just wave your arm. Okay, great. There's a number of us are here. If you have questions or anything that you feel free to approach any steering committee member. And we're now going to move on.
Taping.
Oh, we are videotaping today. Thank you, Linda. So when we have Q&A, we're going to ask you to speak into a microphone so that we can capture all of that. Okay, so on we go. Linda and Lorenzo are going to come up. And again, I just want to thank you for coming. This process does not work without all of you, so we're thrilled that you're here. Thanks.
Again, we thank you for coming out. None of this can work without you guys. So we're going to go over the goals for Hartford Decides, starting with civic engagement, increasing engagement and participation by Hartford residents in civic life in the community, especially those that have not previously been involved. So as you guys have starting to get the gist of with all the 3 public meetings, a lot of people that normally don't get involved in the city process are now coming out and engaging. Issue deliberation, identification of issues, problems, needs, challenges, as well as community assets and aspirations, analysis of their nature and impact, and development of ideas to address those issues. And that's basically what we're doing is taking the ideas and now making them projects that will address the issues that were brought up in our public meetings. Collaboration. Increase collaboration among neighborhoods and community organizations. And again, the partnership with these action teams, as we get help from the city, professionals that know the process and will make your job as action teams easier, and also with the NRZs that are associated with the steering committee. Empowerment. Empowering Hartford residents to make decisions on the use of $1.25 million of city capital funds. That's self-explanatory. Unity. Increase the sense of community and unity among various areas of the city. And again, a lot of these projects are going to benefit multiple areas of the city and hopefully as broad as possible. Inclusiveness. Include people of all ethnicities, backgrounds, ages, genders, and neighborhood equitability. And transparency. Publicized and easily understood by members of the Hartford community. You want to do
that? Okay. So we'll, hang on one second. What do I push to move to the next one? Okay, and it's right in front of me too, so not that technologically swift. So we want to talk about the process and timeline. And if you wanted to look at, where is it? Oh, that one, yep. Right. If you wanted to look in your folder at the Participatory Budgeting Handbook, this will give you a sense on the page with the red arrows of what the process is for Hartford Decides, getting to a vote on projects, and the time frame as well. So we have completed the brainstorming, which is the second section down there. People have identified maybe 200 to 300 ideas, and you'll get a copy of the list in a little bit. Now we're moving into turning the ideas into projects, and that's why you're all here, because you're interested in serving on action teams, and that's the job of the action teams, volunteers who look at all the projects in a particular category, make sure that they're eligible, rate and rank them according to criteria that's already established, and then come out with ideas that can be converted into projects. Each of your action teams will have a facilitator. The information about what the role is of the facilitator is in the written material in your folder, but we won't look at that right this minute. Facilitator has no, what do they say, no dog in this fight. They're there in order to help you stay on track, help you schedule meetings. If you need something, arrange for that, resources to be brought to the committee, and just to keep you moving. And to make sure that in your small groups you're guided by the ground rules. So if one of the ground rules is speak briefly and to the point, it's probably not the appropriate place to be giving a speech about something. So they may kind of pull you back a little bit. So the facilitator is just to keep you moving, to keep you on track, and to get answers to questions you might need. City staff will be available to the action teams, depending on the person or the department will depend on what the nature of your theme or your category. So if you are Parks Action Team, there will be staff from our Public Works and Park Services Department who can help you think through what to do to define the project. If you were in the Economic Development Theme Action Team, someone from Development Services will be available, and probably for most teams, the Information Services staff will be available should you need that. That probably is most appropriate to Communications, Marketing, and Technology, which is another team. The steering committee, as Richard explained, is overseeing the whole process. You in the action teams will select a liaison so that there's a contact between the steering committee and your action team. So if you need help, that's the place to get it. The steering committee will be just assuring that you have the resources available necessary to do your job. Now, your role is obviously the most important because you'll be doing the work. Some people have asked, can I be on more than one action team? And the answer is yes, but if you take a look at your other handout, the action team guide, you will see on page 10 the timeline for action teams, and it lays out the number of meetings you'll need to have, the tasks between meetings, what the product is at the end. You may find that, if you find that your schedule allows for being on more than one action team, fabulous. But do consider that before making that decision, because you don't want to get overwhelmed and you don't want to leave one action team with not enough people or something like that. So you'll see that the timeline there goes from today, December 12th, where you're having your first team meeting, and then goes through the week of March 7th, which is when we'll be having the Project Expo. You saw in the video, looked like a science fair in a gym. We will be having that in March so that people know what projects you've come up with, and the action team is responsible for putting those presentations together. It'll take you back to 5th grade or 6th grade. That sounds great to me. And then you'll complete the proposals with the assistance of city staff. So I already talked about all this. So let's just breeze along. Okay. So I think we're moving on to a little more discussion of the action team guide, which you have probably out in front of you, but it's Action Team Guide 2015-2016.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing? You all right? You all right? Need another coffee, some more donuts, anything like that? Feel free. I just want to bring this guide to light. This is going to be your Bible during your discussions for your action team meetings. We really, really, really want you to take these home, read them before your next meeting. Most of the information and most of the questions that you're going to have are going to be answered in this guide. So it's crucial that you read it early on and that you are referring to the timeline, as Linda just discussed. That's going to give you a much better sense of what your timeline is going to be for action teams as you're creating these proposals, and it's going to give you an idea of what's coming next. So you guys can kind of prepare. Those of you who need a to-do list or need to write things down, it is all in here for you. So we just want to make sure that you're taking note of this, that you're keeping it with you for all of the action team meetings. So you're going to bring this to each one of them. It's going to help you, keep notes and things like that, and make notes. And then, also, if you need to contact anybody, on the inside page after the title page is my information. So that is going to be your contact person if you have any emergency questions or any just questions and concerns about being a part of this action team. So that is kind of all I have to say. We're going to be we have already gone over some details in this action team guide, and then I'm going to have Ms. Jackie McKinney, co-chair of Hartford 2000 and member of the steering committee, come up and talk about the CIP discussion, which is also briefly in the action team guide. Ms. Jackie?
Hello and welcome. Wow, what a great group. Okay, the capital improvement discussion. Some of you may think, why do they keep talking about that capital improvement? So important. Well, unfortunately, it's important because it's not general funds money. In other words, most of the bills for the city are paid out of tax dollars in your general fund, our tax dollars. Capital improvement money is money, bond money, and that we borrow on. And the mayor, in collaboration with the city council, allocated $1.25 million for this project. And unfortunately, or fortunately, there are restrictions on what we can spend this money on. Spending the money improperly could get us on the front page of the Hartford Courant, like what happened with the Dillon Stadium debacle, where the money was not allocated, was paid for something that's not allowed. And we in no way want to go down that road. So it's important that you be aware sooner versus later on what we can include in the projects. And we can start with, it has to involve physical improvements to city-owned property. It can't be like you want an addition on your house so that the residents of Hartford can meet at your house. Nice thought, but not with this money. It will benefit the public. In other words, people of all ages, races, creeds, religions can use the property. And the item has to have a 5 years lifespan. Something that disappears in a year, it's not a good way to invest capital money. The idea addresses a community need, and that's why we spent the first meeting that most of you attended talking about needs, assets, and issues. And from that list, we will go to the next step of turning them into projects. We also these ideas have to be for new projects, not projects that have already been funded or partially funded in the normal direction of city council may be appropriating funds for. So it's for new projects. There's a ceiling, actually a floor on what the project should be, and that's $25,000. In talking to our city public works and information services people, most projects that they use that go under the capital improvement fund are at least $25,000. So that's how we came up with that money, that number. If the ideas are involving one or two locations, neighborhoods, there will be a ceiling on that, and we won't go over $250,000 for any one idea. And the cost of implementing the idea for 3 or more locations will not exceed $500,000. The thought here behind this, and this is what the steering committee came up with, is that we want to include as many projects as possible. However, projects that go over neighborhoods or certain parts of the city, we want to put a ceiling on that. We don't want to use our money up with one vote, with one project. So we'd like to have as many as possible. And the projects will be implemented by city staff under all the rules and regulations of how they implement, how they get vendors to do it. They know the vendors, and they're in a better position to make this happen quickly than if any one of us took on the project. Okay, now let's talk about things that would be eligible, just to get your mind going. Things that are eligible is repaving a street, and someone asked me about that the other day. Installing new playground equipment, renovating a portion of a park, adding an art gallery to a library, building a baseball field on school grounds. It's an idea of the things that would be eligible. What would not be eligible is paying for the salary of a public employee or a contract with a nonprofit to provide services. Repairing a privately owned building, that's that addition that you might want on your house. helping an organization renovate space that it rents from a private landlord, and helping a religious institution repair its sanctuary. So that gives you an idea of the range of things that are eligible and not eligible. I was just going to say, let's take questions. Do you have the mic, Linda? Mary's over there. She has a question.
So I'm curious, is planning eligible if you're planning something that might not be, the cost of implementation might not fit into this budget?
The cost of planning for it or designing a project, is that
Right,
it?
so design documents, and is that eligible if the actual project can't be built in this phase?
Yeah. Linda, you want to respond to that? Come on up here.
Mary, was the question that if, just to make sure I understand, pay for planning but not yet for the construction? Is that? No, it's not that planning is not an eligible cost, but the project that we need to put on the ballot is the whole thing. It's planning and construction. And then they would use a part of it for planning and a part for construction. Did that answer the question?
Thank you, Linda. Any other questions?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Janier Cabang, and I live here in the south end of Hartford. And I had a question about the phase one. Later on, are we going to know what exactly, how that process ended?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. 'Cause I couldn't stay for the whole meeting, though, because I had another meeting.
There's a list from all three meetings of assets, a list of aspirations, a list of issues, and a list of ideas. And I have to admit that I finished up the list of ideas for today, but I haven't finished putting all three together. But that will be provided to you very shortly.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Elaine Mobley. I'm wondering, is there possibility of getting a listing of the city-owned property?
I can ask.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Even though I work for the city, I am aware that it's sometimes hard to get that list, but we'll take a crack at it. Pardon me? Yeah, you can go online and there's some information there. I don't know if that's the total. You're looking for city-owned property that might be vacant or blighted or something like that, I'm assuming. Because when we're talking about public property, we're often talking about streets, parks, and recreation centers, which you already know are there.
Mm. Anything else?
So the guide indicates that a city department is responsible for implementation.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the department best suited for the project, or are there a bunch of departments already indicating interest? And is the library considered a department of the city?
Yes, and it's the one best suited. For example, let me use park benches. Public Works, a part of Public Works would always order park benches. I mean, they would be the czars of park benches for our city staff, so we would use them versus the library, which doesn't know a whole lot about park benches. It is.
It's not technically a department, but it's public property, and so for purposes of this project, yes.
Here, I'll come back over here.
Hi, my name is Marshall. I was wondering, could a project actually, after it's built for the community, and let's say that surrounding communities can use it as well, in turn then generate money back to go back to the city?
You mean like renting out for events or
like
something?
I was thinking like, okay, for an example, like say a city-owned, let's say ice skating rink, or a city-owned like you do down at Bushnell Park with the carousel, or
Yeah.
you know, those type of projects where they will actually enhance the community plus bring revenue back into the city. Is that eligible? I mean, would that work too?
Yeah, there's no reason you couldn't do that. The city normally thinks about, though, who can afford to use, I mean, you're talking about charging fees for things. And it,
Right.
typically we don't do that, but you could propose it.
Well, they're doing it right now with the baseball park, right? Am I wrong or right?
Well, that's a whole different, I mean, that's a much larger thing than, it's much more complex, I guess.
Right, I do get
But if
that.
you're asking, can you charge fees?
Right.
Yeah, yes, you can.
Okay.
The city has to agree.
That is. Well, wait.
Yes, hi. My name is Harry. Basically, my question is, I know that there are going to be quite a few projects, and I'm looking at the cost of the implementation of the ideas and so forth. What ultimately will give projects a green light? Because everybody's not going to be able to do everything they want. So I know they're going to have to pick and choose certain projects which they feel are more substantial.
The projects will be chosen by residents voting. Anybody who's 13 years old and older and lives in Hartford can vote for the projects. And the winning projects will be the ones that are implemented.
Hi, my name is Jetta, and I live in the community as well. And one of my concerns is I noticed up there you said eligibility for art galleries to library. Is that same consideration going to be for performing arts space? Performing artists, for instance, for one of my concerns is that there are many buildings that are dedicated to art, visual arts, but I don't believe there are really any buildings dedicated to performing arts and for children to have those experiences with performing artists that are going to be able to live in an environment to be able to bring those type of arts.
I believe that was one of the ideas that's on the list, and you can check that when we get there.
As long as it's with a city-owned property. Again, not attached to your house.
And that kind of goes right into the eligibility discussion. I'm sorry, wait, Logan.
We have one more question.
Sorry.
It's all good. All right, my question is, I know you can have money spent in planning, you know, hey, architects, design this thing. What about money allocated to ensure the upkeep and usage of said thing? Because I know, like, someone threw out, hey, let's have a graffiti wall in Poe Park. So, and they said, well, every month, let's be able to repaint the wall straight up gray so people can re-tag it. In the capital improvement money, can you allocate, this is how much gray paint we would have, or once the thing's built, it has to go into the city budget, and so then that paint would have to be approved as a line item. I'm wondering the upkeep and the usage of the structures. Can you allocate money, or is that a no-no?
It's a good question.
Good question. One of the criteria for evaluating project ideas is feasibility. So in your example, there would need to be, it's obvious that someone needs to be assigned to take the gray paint or whatever the process is for painting it over. So you would need to have a conversation with Public Works in this case and say, you know, is this something that can be accommodated in the current operating budget? I would say in this particular example, it's probably yes, because it's not a huge thing. But if you're doing a project that requires a whole lot of maintenance and staffing, then that needs to be taken into account before we get to the project proposal.
Okay, let's take one more, then we'll move on. Two more, all right, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name is Leslie. My question was about some of the structures that are going to be built, and I'm hearing a lot about like gallery spaces and things that sort of require staff in order to work. My curiosity is about like how that happens. How does, like, suppose there's a gallery built with some of this money, how is it decided who staffs the gallery if we're not able to use the money as stipend to pay people? I'm curious about that.
Well, the short answer, if you've talked with the appropriate city departments and they say that the cost of this project in the long term is very, very high, then that project will not be feasible. You know, that's sort of because you have to accommodate the operations cost before setting up the project for funding. And do understand that these are examples out of the couple hundred ideas, so don't get you know, stuck on those.
And I just wanted to ask the question, and because I noticed in a lot of the public meetings that people wanted to address blight, and sometimes that's going to be buildings that aren't currently owned by the city. Are these projects eligible to be, like, if it's a blighted building that wants to be renovated to serve a public purpose, would through this project, would we be able to purchase that property and renovate it?
I would say that it probably will not rank very high on feasibility, simply because having the city have to acquire the property before they can even begin the project is a fairly long process. And that kind of makes the project, then the money would be sitting around for, you know, a couple of years, and, you know, you can look at it, but you need to have that kind of issue in mind.
Okay. Naisha, and that you're the final person, huh?
Is the idea phase closed?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to now turn this over.
However, it'll be closing after our steering committee meeting on Monday, because otherwise the action teams don't know what they're dealing with. So for those of you who might have an idea that they hadn't proposed yet, need to go to hartforddecides.org and look for idea space and write your ideas in.
Okay, lots of great questions. So Yvonne and I are going to take the next piece, and very shortly we're going to split up here in the room into action teams so the action teams can begin to do their work. Now, you may have noticed that, you know, we've talked about identifying project ideas, which has been done. We've talked about eligibility, the fact that it's capital money and there are certain eligibility requirements. And then we talked about the voting process, the community voting process, but there's something in between, something really important, and that is the work of the action teams. And the largest part of the work of the action teams is to evaluate project ideas. I think somebody mentioned that out of the 3 meetings, we got at least a couple of hundred project ideas. So how do you deal with that? If you look at the bottom of page 3 in the action team guide, that's where the section starts on project evaluation, which ideas can be turned into project proposals. And Linda sort of alluded to it a couple of times, but we've set up 5 basic criteria. And Yvonne and I are going to explain those quickly, and then you'll work in your action teams on it. And let me mention that this is the way participatory budgeting has been done in other cities, so we didn't make this up. We may have tweaked it a little bit, but we've basically taken it from the experience of other cities. So there are 5 basic criteria, and if you flip over to the top of page 4, you see the first one is community need. And I won't read through all of this because we don't have time, but the action team will look at each project idea once you've confirmed that it's eligible according to these eligibility points, and you'll talk about the community need. And there will be a lot of judgment here, but you will score, you'll score each project idea on community need. And you can see the rating. 1 is the lowest, 4 is the highest. 4 would be extremely high community need. The second criteria is project need. So once again, the action team will look. Okay, we're on criteria matrix, and I think actually we're not ready for that yet. No, okay. So the second one is project need. And once again, the action team will look at each project idea and decide whether to give it 1, 2, 3, or 4 rating. And the next is feasibility, and you get the idea. And the fourth criteria is project impact, and the fifth is collaboration. And you may remember the collaboration was one of the basic goals of Hartford Decides, so we built collaboration into the criteria. So the more collaborative a project, the higher a score it would get in this area. So those are the 5 criteria, and again, the action teams will be working through these for each project idea. Again, first you figure out if the ideas are eligible, and that will weed out some of them. I mean, an action team may be presented with a list of 25 project ideas. I'm making that up. So first you figure out, are these all eligible? A few may be eliminated for that reason. Then you go through this matrix, and each project idea then gets a score. And Yvonne is going to show you a sample, and now we're ready for the next slide, of how this will work.
Okay, good morning. In your folders, there's a peachy, pinky colored form that says Project Evaluation Matrix. So if you can pull that out, this is going to tie up and tie in everything Richard just said. This would be the actual evaluation matrix we will use to bring all those ideas together, and we will score them. And of course, the highest score, what? Right. I'm sorry? The highest score does what? Yes. It doesn't win because we know all of the city of Hartford will be voting on the different projects, correct? So are we going to only have one of these meetings? Because we're going to get new ideas coming in as of and up to what day? Next Monday. So this is why we had this meeting today, just to kind of reiterate how important your role is. Without you, it doesn't happen. So we'll need you to take a very good look at this sample. On the items going down, you got Project 1, Project 2, Project 3, Project 4, Project 5. Just to put it out there, these are just samples. They are not preconceived ideas. We had to put something there, okay? So your ideas that you come up with after you do the actual, what is it called? Evaluation of ideas, you will come with projects, and then you'll rate your community, your needs. So a community need for a project, feasibility, project impact, collaboration, you'll score those and then total them, and those will be your final score. So the highest score, what, again? Right. It's on the ballot.
Well, it's
eligible to be on the ballot. So we're learning as we go through this as well. But does everybody get what we're saying? I see only 3 heads saying yes. Does everybody understand this? Okay. All right.
So if I can just mention one other thing before we move on. In this action team guide, in a couple of different places, it raises the issue of the principle of not reinventing the wheel. And I'm not quite sure where it is, but that is extremely important for the action teams to understand, is that part of your job is to look at these ideas and do a little research, find out what's already going on in town. Because many of us, maybe all of us, know that this is a great sin that is committed in Hartford almost every day, is reinventing the wheel. Somebody gets a great idea and doesn't realize that somebody's already working on something similar. and that leads to an enormous waste of resources. So that again, that's another basic part of the job of the action teams, is to look at what's going on. And maybe there's a way to adapt the idea so it would complement what's already going on, but we don't want reinventing the wheel. So I think we're running a little behind, but maybe if there are any questions, we could just take one or two before we move on and get you into your action teams. Somebody have a mic? This gentleman here.
Thank you. Okay, just to go with this example, Project 1 has a high score, so that's probably one of the projects going to get funded. Now,
well, if I may interrupt, what happens that each action team will do this ranking, and then the highest scores from each action team, those projects will be eligible to be on the ballot for the community vote.
Okay.
Okay.
So all that is done, and it's still Project 1. Now, in Project 4, in this example, the following year, when this is redone, are those projects automatically put on the list, or does the whole process start all over again?
Well, yeah, as has been said, we're doing this for the first time. I don't know. I don't know the answer. My guess is that the process starts all over. But does any steering committee members have an opinion about that?
Well, I will just say that in light of your not reinventing the wheel, that would be one step that we could take with this process, is if there's ideas that scored high this round, maybe that we'll just put them out as examples for next round so that people already have that in mind.
Okay, did we answer your question? Okay, great. Any other quick questions before we move on? Yes? Well, Ms. Mobley said that she wasn't on an action team. Well, today, you get to choose what action team you want to be on. And actually in a few minutes. Okay, well, maybe we should move on. And Linda is going to help us transition into the first meeting of your action teams.
And if I may just address the question of using this matrix and the scoring, there in your handout entitled Action Team Guide, beginning on page 5, it talks about how you take ideas and turn them into project proposals. And you've done the eligibility review, then you're doing the sort of ranking of them, and you do that for the ideas. And ideas that have high scores, you probably will want to take those to the next step of developing a proposal. If you have 25 ideas and 8 of them have very high scores and the remainder have pretty low scores, you're not going to want to bother with the low ones because we can't have 300 projects on the ballot. Most communities have 20, maybe a little more. So we're going to ask each action team to sort of, in the neighborhood of 6 to 8 projects from your group of ideas, get proposals developed. The number isn't set in stone, but so you'll do this for ideas. Then after you've moved forward and started working on the project proposals, which include doing research, going out into the community, talking to people, collecting data, you may want to run it through this matrix again so that you know which projects are the most feasible, have the biggest benefit, and will have the biggest impact on the community. So you can use this at various steps in the process. We are going to break up into action teams, and as Richard just said, if you didn't, well, let me back up. If you were at one or more of the 3 community meetings, you signed up on a flip chart for an action team, or more than one action team. So this is going to be today the first meeting of that action team. So if you signed up, then you'll probably go to the one you signed up for, but you don't have to feel obliged. If you decide that A different action team is more your speed. That's perfectly fine. You're going to get into small groups. You will have a steering committee member with you who will act as a facilitator, keeping you on task, and hopefully answering any questions you have. But that person is not part of the action team. You will have a permanent facilitator as helping your action team. So once we know when you are meeting at your next meeting, that when you are scheduled to meet again, we will assign or ask for a facilitator to be at that meeting to help you. So today, when you get in the group, you'll introduce yourselves to each other. You'll select a team liaison. This is a person who has the responsibility of communicating with the steering committee about what your action team is doing and bringing up any issues or questions with them. Then, once you've done that, you'll select a date, a time, and a location for your next action team meeting. You can meet here at the library. The study rooms are very appropriate for that, but you don't have to meet here. You can meet wherever you wish to do so. You will review the ideas, and maybe I could ask some of Lorenzo and to get some assistance and pass out these bright green sheets which have all the ideas on them. So take a look at those ideas in your action team, your theme. And then the last thing to do is to look around and see how many people are sitting in your group. Then ask yourself the question, do we need more people? It's good to have 10 to 12 people on an action team. It's a lot of work, so you don't want 1 or 2 people doing everything. So if you do need to recruit more people, then talk about how best you can do that. You have in your packet the bookmark, and on the back you'll see there's space to write in your action team, write down the date, time, and location that you've agreed to meet, and write down the liaison's name and contact information and keep that so that you know when your next meeting is. It's sort of like when you go to the doctor and they give you a little card so you don't forget when your appointment is. Same idea. Now, if you do decide to go to participate in more than one action team, we have extras of these bookmarks so you can find out from the other action team when they are meeting. And steering committee members who are facilitating this meeting, on the back of the name of the action team, at the end of your meeting, can you write the date, time, and location of the meeting so that if you are interested in a second action team, you can go around and find out when that one is meeting. Let me just read off the names of the action teams to refresh your memory. Communications, Marketing, and Technology, Parks, Neighborhood Improvements, Transportation, Streets and Sidewalks, Housing, Youth, Energy and Environment, Economic Development, Community Spaces, Safety, last but not least, Blight. So I'll ask the steering committee members to come up and get their signs, and then drag your chairs into a small group and spend about 45 minutes doing the tasks that we just reviewed. Thank you.
Steering committee members, listen up for just a second. Before your small group wraps up, steering committee members, before your small group wraps up, make sure that you have filled this out and make sure that you've got a sign-up sheet that all the members of your group have signed on to and that it's legible. Steering committee members, did you hear me? Yes? Okay, thank you. Minutes, we're going to wrap up here, although you can stay longer if you want to, but we just have a couple of things a couple of pieces of business to attend to. Jackie has an announcement. Jackie, here you go.
Jackie's announcement, it's for Hartford Decides. Part of the Hartford Decides program is our plan is to have 2 positions that we're going to hire to help support. Okay, stop talking. Thank you. Hartford Decides has 2 positions that we've created that we are interviewing for. That their primary responsibility, these 2 positions, will be to support the groups, your action teams, to kind of be the one if you need to find out where to go or what to do or whatever, that person will be your go-to person. And we want to fill these positions by the end of the year, so like we're interviewing now. But we have a job for program assistant. Well, let me start for the project manager. A job opportunity for the program manager. Basically, that individual will be responsible for supporting you, having a program assistant working for them. One of the things we would like to do is to hire somebody from Hartford. It would be kind of tragic if we have to hire somebody from Windsor because no Hartford people have applied. And that's kind of the position we're in right now. We need people from Hartford to apply for these jobs. So we have the project manager. It's a part-time job for 6 months. And we also need bilingual candidates, and the program assistant, that position must be bilingual. It's a 20-hour-a-week part-time job, and the description of the jobs is on the front if you know somebody who might be interested. Also, it's on the website, the Hartford Decides website. So again, there are 2 positions. We want Hartford residents, and we want bilingual. The program assistant must be bilingual. Does not have to be. And we would like to have Hartford residents, but we're not getting apps from Hartford residents. And that's pretty sad. So on top of your other responsibilities, you can put this on your list. Yes? They'll be on the front table.
Are they digital?
Yes, on the website. Hartford Decides website. Any other questions? Yes? No. Yeah. Your contact person, I believe, would be Candace. And if you want, you send your resume the resume into Canvas. And she'll take it from there. Yes. Pardon? Yes, through email, yes. And that information is also on the Hartford Decides website, the email address. Okay, take it away, Lyndon. Richard.
Okay, some reminders for the steering committee members who are facilitating here. And if you could just tune in here for 2 minutes and then you can continue again. Your sign for like the ones that are stuck up here on the stage, steering committees, don't forget to write on the back of that the day, time, and location of your next meeting so that those who want to go to more than one know where to go. We'd ask all of you, please, to fill out your feedback forms. We value your input in planning these programs. Looks like some people are still planning their next meeting. In your folder, you have 2 sheets. In your folder, you have 2 sheets that say, so they stopped talking until I started talking again. Okie doke. Compact, that Richard explained earlier. The white copy is for you to sign. The yellow copy is for you. You can sign it too, but you take it home with you to remind yourself what you agreed to do. So hopefully you all have set a meeting, chosen a liaison, and decided what to do if you need to recruit. Anything else? Oh, you do all the thank yous.
So we've been here for 2 hours together. How's everybody feeling? Good? Good? Tell me, just shout out. What's one word to describe how you're feeling right now about this? Woohoo? How do you spell that? Inspired, I heard. Anybody else? Ready to spend some money. I still have my wallet. That's good. Any other words? How do you feel? Empowered? Okay, good. All right. Well, that's terrific. I feel all those things too. So I think we've covered everything. Again, please fill out that evaluation form. Leave it in the basket on the way out. Any final questions about all of this? Everybody knows what the next steps are, what's going to happen. And give your compact form, sign that compact form, and give it to your steering committee member. Okay. Well, thank you all so much for coming. We've said this many times today, but it's true. This process depends on you and lots of other people. So we'll see you in the near future. Thank you. Bye.